I have a question for Admiral Stavridis, though. If you'd put your Dean hat back on for a second, Admiral. I don't know the current president of Colombia. I knew her predecessor, Lee Bollinger, very well, and was talking to him once, and he was complaining that there was somebody he really wanted to hire in the political science department or somewhere, somebody who was really terrific, and he just couldn't get the faculty to say yes. And I asked, well, you're the president. Why don't you just tell him, to hire the guy? And he just smiled and laughed and said, oh, you're so cute that you think that. You have no idea how this works. And so the faculty is a major constituency on these university campuses, and they have said the thing they're concerned about is protecting the students, protecting the right of free speech, free and open debate, and they've been kind of angry, especially the Columbia faculty. Talk about that as a consideration that all these administrators have to take into account.
Great conversation between you and your friend, the president. The last sentence of Hemingway's "The Sun Also Rises" is, "Isn't it pretty to think so?" And that's a pretty good way to think about it. I'll give you a one-word answer that the president could also have used. He could have said tenure. These are tenured faculty members. They enjoy extraordinary privilege in that regard. There's a long conversation about why that is. There are pros and cons to it. But it's a very protected workforce. So that's kind of the answer there. In terms of today's events, many of these faculty come out of that 68 generation, the older tenured one. So that becomes a force in this. And then finally, I would just say to everybody, as we look at these protests, they flash large on the screens. Got it. But to my eye, there's about 100 campuses or so that are affected right now. Gene, you may know there are 4,000 institutions in the United States that grant a bachelor's degree. We're not seeing protests, therefore, on 3,900 of them. I think we're going to be okay and get through this moment. Going to require some balance, some sensibility and approach, but ultimately we can't allow this behavior by students or by faculty.
Yeah, and actually, I did have a conversation with somebody in the Columbia administration, to Gene's point, who said that there are perhaps about 300 faculty who have been supporting the protesters over the administration, but Columbia has a faculty of about 7,000, and that the vast majority of the Columbia faculty are actually in support of President Shafiq and the administration and the actions that they're taking. So I think so far, at least, the president does have faculty on board with her, which of course is a big help. Admiral, let me switch the conversation and turn it a little bit to the kind of root of the actual problem that we're seeing in the Middle East that's causing all of this. We're hearing reports that the latest round of hostage negotiations that could lead to a ceasefire is going a little better. Hamas reportedly viewing this with some kind of positive light, is what we're being told. What's your reading, what's your understanding of where we are on that? It looked like it all just was, stop, start, which put the administration in a difficult position because they keep doing this shuttle diplomacy and then they come back with nothing. Do you think we are at a moment where we could be looking for some sort of a deal over hostages and a ceasefire?
Well, as we say in that part of the word, ojalá, let's hope so. I think it's a better than even chance at the moment, which is higher odds than I would have given 3 weeks ago or a month ago. Key indicator, Hamas is sending a delegation, physical presence to Cairo. I am hearing that the conversations are progressing. And here I give credit to the Biden administration, who've done a good job both putting pressure on Israel, rightfully so, to get to some kind of yes, and through the Arab world, through the leadership and the moneyed side of the Arab world, putting pressure on Hamas. So these are two unwilling parties being somewhat forced toward a compromised position. But, Katty, I think we're probably better than even. That's wonderful. Can I tell you one other thing that's going well? As we look at a small percentage of the youth of the United States who are protesting on campuses, another group of American youths U.S. military are off Gaza building a pier that's going to open in the next few days, a floating pier, a maritime miracle that's going to move 150 to 200 truckloads of humanitarian aid. That's a pretty good accomplishment. You'll see a spark of good news there. Let's hope it increases with a ceasefire in the next few days.
Yeah, but looming over all of this, the potential Israeli invasion of Rafah, which Netanyahu has said is going to happen, whether a ceasefire or hostage swap deal breaks or not. Covering a lot of ground for us this morning. Retired Admiral James Stavridis, thank you as always. We'll talk to you.